A cold wind slices through the cracked pavement of a Woodward Avenue alley, mingling the scent of spilled motor oil and simmering grill smoke from churrascos across the street. Somewhere nearby, a battered radio hammers out a faded Motown rhythm, just enough to remind you this city knows both heartbreak and hustle. Out here, where the streets pulse with blue-collar grit and lion hearts, the fans gather brewing tailies between sips of cheap beer and sweat-soaked scarves. They're talking, eyes sharp, leaning into the chill, because Detroit's never been about playing it safe. Lean in close, all right? Because there's a new kind of buzz humming under the Friday night glow of Ford Field. You know how the Lions have been carving a blueprint, block by block, front office steady, like the hum of a well-tuned V8? Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have been orchestrating drafts like Detroit's own urban symphony, finding diamonds in the rough, building through the pick, not the paycheck. This isn't your typical free agent chase, no sir. It's a grind. A slow burn that's got the motor revving just right. But here's the twist. There's a whisper swirling in the air, louder than a drum line during the halftime show. Are Holmes and Campbell about to flip the script, slam some cash on the table, and swing a big one that rattles the entire roster? If you're catching this in a draft day tailgate or the frosted nosebleeds, you better sit tight because the Lions might be sharpening claws beyond the draft board this season. Now listen, if you're wrapped in Honolulu blue and white, you know what patience looks like. You remember the bitterness of a 0-16 season, the crushing silence after Barry Sanders hit the road, and the ghost of Calvin Johnson's runs bending. Time. You know the sting when Jim Caldwell's ship just didn't find wind in its sails. But something's different now. The front office talks like they've been learning from the pros, like the Rams' Les Snead, who famously FD'd the scare picks and shook up the NFL landscape. Brad Holmes openly admits they've got that fire inside, a readiness to make bold moves, but with an eye sharp enough to spot a trap before it snaps shut. The Lions aren't just building, they're strategizing. They're watching every piece on the chessboard, and if the time is right, watch out. By now you're probably wondering, what exactly is the Lions' play? Here's where it hits like a lightning strike. The name Trey Hendrickson surfaces, and suddenly everything sharpens. A sack artist, back-to-back seasons, with 17-plus sacks. Snarling on the Bengals' defensive front lines. League chatter says he's unhappy with his contract, a classic you're too good for what you're getting paid blues. If Holmes and Campbell pull this off, it's not just another franchise move. It's a declaration that Detroit is hunting. That relentless pass rusher could snap the opposing offenses like a pop axle on 8 Mile. But hold your roar a second. Holmes isn't committing, he's locked in on Aiden Hutchinson, a hometown hero who started flashing elite pass rush flashes since breaking in. Hutchinson's dialed in Dan Campbell's no-nonsense defense, taking on blockers, crunching QB ribs, and climbing the ranks to become one of the league's best. Adding Hendrickson? It's like doubling down on horsepower 2 beasts wearing Honolulu blue, pushing Ben Johnson's aggressive defensive scheme into a blitzkrieg. It reshapes snap counts, puts pressure on depth players like Derek Barnes or Charles Harris, and stirs the pot for rotational reps. Would Detroit sacrifice the draft capital or salary cap wiggle room? That's the chess in motion. Naturally, you got some tailgate wise guy cracking jokes about how many QBs the Lions will carry in 2025, better stack him like pancakes, because you never know who's taking the starter's ride home. That's the kind of locker room. Banter that keeps the energy raw and the expectations wild. Holmes isn't scared of shaking the roster, but he's no fool. There's a method and muscle behind every move, every whisper of a trade floating through the rumor mill. The soul of Detroit football is about clawing through the wreckage and fighting for every yard, every sack, every moment of glory. Remember last year's playoff push from the depths. That glimmer of what this team can be? It's the grind that won't quit even when the sky's gray and the scoreboard's unforgiving. If Holmes does roll the dice on Hendrickson, it's a gamble shaped by those hard lessons, by the weight of every heartbreak the city's worn like a badge of honor. And now, the cliffhanger: you think the Bengals are ready to fold? What if the Lions' move triggers a ripple across the division, forcing rivals to up their ante? Could this shove Hutchinson into an even bigger spotlight or push the Lions to carry fewer rookies but more veterans biting at the glass? Cap space juggling, snap battles underneath Detroit's cold winter lights. It's a drama unfolding like the Motor City's finest, heart on the line, steel in the soul, and no shortage of surprises down the road. So strap in, because Detroit's next play might just change everything, or leave us shaking our heads with that signature Lions grin, daring us to believe again. Let's go, Detroit! This is the moment we've been waiting for. The clock's running out and the front office is holding its breath. Time to make or break everything we fought for. The Lions' entire season is teetering on this. Every call, every trade whisper, every gamble in the war room could flip the entire division. And the tension is thicker than concrete, and the D reports say. Holmes is eyeing Hendrickson like a lion stalking its prey. Back-to-back seasons of 17-plus sacks. A beast in the trenches, simmering in Bengals frustration over a contract that's just a stone's throw from the franchise tag. And sources hint Detroit's about to hit the gas, making a move that could send shockwaves across the league. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because if they pull this off, the ripple effect pushes the NFC North into chaos, forcing rivals to play their hand earlier than they planned, and could even ignite a bidding war for top-tier pass rushers in the middle of free agency. But it's not just Hendrickson. Detroit's locked in on Hutchinson, the hometown hero, whose star keeps rising like a Detroit sunrise. He's already been showing flashes of elite pressure. But adding Hendrickson? That's a turbo boost? A full-blown blitzkrieg that shifts the whole defensive identity from sneaky to unstoppable. Imagine the triggers Dan Campbell's been talking about. The blitz package is dialed up, making offenses scramble harder than a snowstorm on 8 Mile. The roster math is tight. Do they sacrifice draft capital? Or do they gamble cap space and hope the rookies can hold the line while bold veterans ride shotguns? Fact is, every dollar and pick now is a move in a chess game where losing means falling short. Losing in the playoffs, and Detroit's scars. From 0 to 16, and those heartbreaks in the postseason are still raw, still fueling every decision. This one move could inspire or crush, send the team to the promised land, or set them back for years. But here's where it deepens. League chatter suggests that Hendrickson's frustrations with Bengals front office could give Holmes and Campbell the opening they need, but can they close the deal before the NFL draft clock runs out? The Bengals aren't just going to roll over. They're a proud franchise, and if Detroit snags Hendrickson, it's a bold declaration that the Motor City is no longer content with rebuilding. It sets a tone, shocks the NFC North into rethinking their approach. You better believe Green Bay and Minnesota are watching this, gaming out counter moves as Detroit's front lines start to resemble an all-out blitz. Dig deeper inside Detroit, the locker room's buzzing. A veteran like Hendrickson joining the squad could ignite a culture of relentless, hunger-making. Players like Barnes or Harris realize that every snap is a chance to prove they're part of something historic, that this isn't just about the season, it's about legacy. And yet, with every massive move comes the dangerous dance of cap worries, sideline whispers about holding on to future assets, avoiding the trap of overpaying, because if Campbell's crew pulls the trigger, it's not just about one player. It's a signal to every team that Detroit's back on the hunt, that this city's grit isn't just talk, but a weapon sharper than a Detroit knife. The ghosts of Johnson and Sanders still linger. Those moments of glory and heartbreak fuel the fire, push Holmes to roll those dice, trusting that this gamble could be the key to unlocking a new chapter or snowballing into the kind of turmoil that makes even the most optimistic fans hold their breath. And now, the close. With every second ticking down, the Lions front office is caught in a crucible. Do they hammer out that deal, risking the whole season, or hold back, trusting their draft board and hope fate grants the window a little more time? Because if they pull the trigger now, It could send shockwaves through the league, tearing apart division rivals, shattering expectations, yet if they hesitate, we're staring at a game of chess with the clock bleeding out. We're one wrong. Move could leave Detroit stranded, grinding through a winter of what-ifs, the weight of a city holding its breath as the decision hangs in the balance. The roar, the heart, the grit, it's either now or never. And I tell you, this could be the moment Detroit finally shifts from scrapper to contender, or we watch everything slip through our fingers in silence, because the front office has every piece they need, but whether they dare to pull that big, bold move before the deadline, that's the real story we're about to see unfold. Make no mistake, this city's future might hinge on one handshake, one signature, one shot to define what Detroit football really means. Can the Lions seize the moment, or will this be another chapter of almost echoing in the cold shadows of Ford Field? Either way, the stakes are sky high and the clock's about to run out. So the question is, are we ready to risk it all for a shot at greatness? Or will we watch it slip away, silent and scarred, into the Detroit night?